welcome to Bird Talk. We have a special Sunday morning session going on.
That's right. You're listening to David and Scott Menough with Bird Talk, and got a great Sunday morning session going on here. And oh, by the way, look over there. Is that a balding blabbermouth?
I think you're right. It could be. Look at that.
Look at that.
And from here, right next to, I can see a wild cuckoo bird.
Absolutely. Boy, that is an amazing specimen. I've never seen a cuckoo one.
No. Wait a minute.
Okay.
Wait a minute. I think it's Dean Rotbart.
Rotbart
And the other?
is David Biondo.
Yes, you're right.
Yes.
Sorry, I guess we confused our birds. We'll have to check our field guides.
That's right. You know, everybody makes mistakes, even backyard bird feeding specialists.
They do.
Then we're going to play our theme music. That's great, guys. You do.
That was awesome. That was really.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So he wants you to say Dean Rotbart.
Dean Rotbart.
Okay, you're good.
David, I've been called many things, but a balding blabbermouth, I haven't been called that for at least a couple days.
You know, Dean, you have a rather large beak, and we all know that, right?
Hey, we're doing sort of a double show here. We always love to listen to Bird Talk Radio on Saturdays on KNUS. You guys, we have with us Scott and David Menough, who are the co-hosts, and that is presented by
And they
Wild
chirp
Birds
it up
Unlimited
on Saturdays.
And really, it's hard to tell whether the two of you are hosting a show about wild birds or just a comedy show, because it's very engaging and very entertaining, and it's nice to sort of combine our shows. So both of you, Scott, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
How long have you been doing Bird Talk Radio?
Bird Talk Radio off and on for about 20 years. We've hopped around quite a bit to different stations. We've migrated one place to another, and we're happy to be on KNUS.
Yeah, it's our favorite place to be, and you know, it's quite an honor to be here with you two.
Oh, I used to live near.
It's quite an honor.
Friggin'
I'm even
Olive.
honored, David, to be here with me. Listen, we're going to talk about. I want to get a little bit of housekeeping out of the way. We're going to talk about your new store at the beginning of December. You moved into a new location. David, Scott, you're still in the same place on Wadsworth Boulevard at Yale that you've been for some time?
23 years just 2 days ago.
We have lots to talk about. You brought some binoculars. Maybe we can spot some other balding blabbermouths.
Absolutely.
You got some other things you're going to tell us about. We're going to talk about the wild bird business, about the franchise business. But David, a couple of bookkeeping things. We are still in the middle of our No Socks to Work campaign month.
I got socks hanging right here.
Hey, I want to point out, in case people haven't seen it, you can go to our
Take your socks off.
Facebook page, which is facebook.com/No Socks to Work Day. Mayor Michael Hancock, good-spirited gentleman, took off his socks, put on his shoes, put his feet on his desk, participated in it. Also,
Coach Carl.
Absolutely, we had some great people participating.
Mr. McGee.
The socks are piling up. It's not too late. If you have socks for the homeless, we're collecting new socks. You can take them to any Marco's Pizza location in Colorado. There's 12 of them.
Squawk it, Dean, squawk it.
There are a whole bunch of drop-off locations, and we are trying to reach the goal of 50,000 pair of socks for the homeless, so we want to make sure, you know, that is still going on. Later on the show, there's only 2 days until Christmas, so for the people out there who are just car fanatics, we've got a segment coming up later on the show featuring Jack Farland, who is the owner of Classic Restorations. It's called Classic Restorations, and we're going to be talking about things like a 1962 Porsche Super 90, a 1968 Shelby. These are just some of the cars. I was out there. I went out to see his shop this last week. Some very impressive cars. He's got his own Rolls Royce there. They're restoring.
You think we can get a chauffeur?
I don't know, but he's offered to let us do the show from one of his cars, so I want to be able to do that. He's coming up in the second half of the show.
I want a convertible.
We want to tell people that we are going to. We've joked around about No Socks to Work Day, and in joking we talked about No Pants to Work Day. Well, we're going to have in our fourth segment today. We're going to have a man who goes to work virtually every day without pants on, because he is the owner of the two Tilted Kilt restaurants here in Colorado, and instead of wearing pants, he wears kilts.
And neither do the ladies.
He's coming up in the second half, and we also want to tell everybody, of course, to keep their eyes out for Small Business Drives Colorado. We're in the very final stages of launching that. We're going to tell you more about that, but basically we're going to spend all of 2013 saluting Colorado's small businesses, which is what our show is about. And of course, we have with us with Wild Birds Unlimited.
You know why I want to convert
a couple of small business owners who deserve. You guys are getting, Scott and David, you're getting some early recognition as a small business that helps drive the Colorado economy. So that is neat. Again, you were saying 23 years?
23 years.
That is awesome. Now, you were telling me by phone, David, we spoke, and you said that really, and I didn't realize this, that Wild Birds Unlimited is a national organization, and you guys are just two local owners of a franchise that is all across the country.
That's right. We have about 270 some stores throughout North America, and Scott opened the first franchise west of the Mississippi in the United States 23 years ago. I saw how much fun he was having with it and decided I'd get involved as well. So about 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago, I opened my store, and of course, I can only stay in a place for about 20 years, so I had to move across the street this last month.
20 yeyears, you can sort of get that itch. So, how many wild bird watchers do you guys estimate there are in the United States?
You know, it is not only bird watchers, but it's also people that feed birds in our backyard. That's our main customer.
Okay.
And those folks may not even know what birds they're seeing in their yard, but they just enjoy bringing nature in and being able to watch it. But it is estimated that, what was the last estimate, 150 million people?
Yeah,
something like that?
It's about 60% of people in the United States feed birds or observe wildlife.
And they study this and they feed them either at the park, in their backyard, or they watch wild birds in some manner. Of course, they've been studying this for years because they're trying to figure a way that they might be able to attach taxes to the occupation.
I lived right outside Brigantine Wildlife Preserve in Smithville, New Jersey.
Well, let's get back to this. Dave, we got to take a break here. I want to tell people this is Business Unconventional, doing a simulcast, if you will, with BirdTalk Radio, at least with the co-hosts of that, Scott and David. Pronounce your last name, son?
Menough.
Okay, Scott and David Menough. So sounds like Minnow almost too.
Almost.
Kind of.
Minnow. Okay. Well, you will be back after with Scott and David right after this quick break.
Okay. You're back. Welcome back to Business Unconventional.
I thought this was BirdTalk Radio.
You know it is.
Is this Saturday afternoon?
I'm confused.
It airs Saturday afternoon at what time, Scott?
Noon to 1.
It's noon to 1 on Saturday.
Noon to 1.
You may think this is Sunday.
This is prime bird watching time.
We could call it Bird Talk, or Bird Talk
Unconventional.
Can you talk like a bird?
A lot of people,
Oh, sure.
David Menough, a lot of people think that David Biondo and I engage in nothing but bird talk and tweeting and all of those types of things. We don't have an appetite like a bird. We ate some really good, and we've got some leftovers
Tilted Kilt
here from you, some food here from Tilted Kilt. Let's talk about what birds eat. Come on, you guys brought in actually some stuff. Let's talk about what you brought in first of all. You brought in some stuff that's popular.
You know, some of the things about our stores are that we specialize in Colorado birds, so we tend to provide food that Colorado birds eat, whereas the mass merchants tend to try to feed all the birds in North America in one bag. So that means half of that stuff ends up on the ground growing weeds and making a big mess, whereas with Wild Birds Unlimited blends, they eat every seed that's in the bag, you get a better variety of birds, and you don't have all the hassle.
So David Menough and Scott Menough, here's what I want to tell you. I am the perfect audience for you. I mean that honestly, because I'm interested. I'm not already a bird feeder or a wild bird watcher, and yet I've got you guys here, and you can whet my appetite completely for all of this. So maybe start with me, because the people who are really into this are probably already listening to your show. So we're going to introduce you to a whole audience of people that maybe ought to be coming by your store. Take me. I want to do it. Tell me what do I do? Now, I actually live in an apartment complex. Can I put a bird feeder out on my balcony and walk me through what I need to do so I can start seeing some birds? And Scott, what kind of birds here in Colorado am I likely to see? I live in the Lowry area. What am I likely to find?
You're going to see a great variety of birds, and we concentrate on the insect-eating birds that stay here year-round, so they often switch to seeds, and the seed-eating birds, and occasionally some nectar-eating and fruit-eating birds. Birds need 4 different things to survive. They need food, water, cover or shelter, and a safe place to raise young. And you can provide those. Now, the cover and shelter and safe place to raise young is a little bit harder in an apartment complex, but you can easily provide food. You can provide water. putting up a bird feeder and using a seed, what we call a seed blend that attracts a variety of Colorado birds. Colorado is excellent for the number of bird species. It's like number 8 out of the 50 states in the number of bird species that have been identified here, 490 species of birds. Now, all those aren't going to come into your yard, but you may start with seeing 5 different species and work up to seeing 10, 20, 30 different species
now, do
throughout
most
the
watchers watch, or David Menough, do they take pictures? What do they do? How do they do they record it?
You know, it's tough to pigeonhole people because
Pigeonhole. It's the point of the day.
We use a
Okay.
lot of those kind of terms, but, you know, it's everybody from folks like, gosh, Carl Mecklenburg.
My producer over there, Maxwell, wanted to say that he's a mockingbird because he's mocking us. And we're going to look for some other puns as we go.
Well, that won't be the first time. You know, these bird brains, and bird brains is not necessarily an insult. They're very intelligent.
David and I
creatures.
like that. We actually
I live at 9,300 feet on the back side of
on the back seat. You're talking about car restoration.
No, on the back side
Okay.
of Pikes Peak.
Nice.
And lots of evening and pine grass.
Oh,
yeah, you
Yeah.
bet.
Beautiful.
And that's it. The topography in Colorado is so diverse that's one of the reasons we get all these
I
species.
counted 30 golden eagles over my horse wagon.
Wow.
And 2 bald eagles
Well, you
included.
need
and
to
a couple
keep your,
hawks.
keep your chihuahua indoors. Then.
What would cause that though? We've never seen anything
And a
like
balding blabbermouth.
Well,
It depends on the time of year. It could be migration.
that. It was October.
It could be migration. It could be looking for food sources at that period of time.
I was looking good.
I
Have you done
interrupted David Menough because you were starting to tell me how whether people record it, whether they take pictures,
What
whether
they
they
do,
just
you know,
brag about it.
It's funny. Kathy and I, shortly after we started the store, had a record bird in our backyard. That was a bird that was the first time seen in Colorado. We had 150 birders in the next 30 days come through our house to see this little Inca dove. And it ranged from people who would bring picnic lunches, sit down on our deck, and enjoy observing and drinking in the character of the bird, to people who came and said, okay, got him, check, and I'm out of here. So it's a wide range of people who watch birds.
So you became a museum in your own backyard?
We did, and people kind of accused us of bringing him in just to support our business.
Do you
but,
believe in the Thunderbird?
Do I believe in a we used to have a Ford.
Oh,
at one
did you?
time.
Classic restorations, Jack Farland coming up, so we can talk about that. Listen, before we do this, I want to give out your addresses again. For David, your store is in Arvada. The new address, 7370 West 88th Avenue.
That's correct.
Okay, and it's really not very far from your old store. You are now on the southeast corner of 88th and Wadsworth.
Correct.
And Scott, and do you run the store with Sandy?
I do.
Okay, so Scott and Sandy Menough, they are at 2720 South Wadsworth Boulevard, which is Wadsworth at Yale, and you have a website that people can go to, and they
Instead
can
of Cowboy Up,
learn
it's now Bird Up.
more. Scott, the website is?
Yeah, the gateway is wildbirdscolorado.com, and from there you can go to the specific websites for the 2 stores.
And we're talking, I mean, I think that a lot of our listeners who we presume to be business owners and entrepreneurs, I think they're probably interested in you 2 guys on 2 levels. One is as potential bird watchers, and 2 is what the bird business is. And so Dave, pick up a little bit. You have some binoculars here. Tell us what you sell in your store, what the product line is, what's popular, and how the bird business is organized.
Well, we specialize in all things to bring people and nature together. So we have everything that you need to set up the best backyard bird oasis you could have. In addition to that, we have things for people who don't feed birds. We have binoculars, some of the finest optics that you can get at the most reasonable prices, which is a great value. We have nature-related art and gift items. You know, if you're looking for something really, something unique.
Now, if somebody wants to come in and like view some birds, do you send them to Chatfield or specific places?
Scott and I have put together a list of Denver area birding hotspots. And it's a pretty extensive list of places that are close in to the metro area, and even in the metro area in some cases, where you can go and see a good variety of birds.
Talk about this. Do you guys each have non-family related staff in your stores?
Oh, yes.
We do.
Yeah.
Okay, and how large a square footage do you have, and maybe how many people in the stores?
My store is, let's see, we just downsized slightly, so we're just under 4,000 square feet.
Wow, awesome.
My store is about 2,600 square feet. I have a staff of 8, people.
You have things hanging around like the birds.
Since we know,
You have things hanging from the ceiling.
when we
I
talk
do.
about wacky,
Also.
when we talk about wacky birds,
Yeah.
on the phone with us now from Abilene, Texas,
He's
is,
nesting.
is our certified number one
In Abilene.
wacky bird. Homer, are you there?
Homer, are you there?
Homer, I want you to meet brothers Scott and David Menough. They are each owners of Wild Birds Unlimited stores here in Colorado. Homer is our Abilene, Texas correspondent. Homer, you got any birds down there you keep an eye on? Seriously, have you
You got some roadrunners?
have you ever done any serious bird watching, Homer?
Mm-hmm.
Homer, what I like, and I think what is so interesting for our listeners on Business Unconventional, is the idea that a hobby, which is really what bird watching is, can also be a serious,
So if you're being
can be a serious
henpecked-
business.
If you're being henpecked, you should go out and birdwatch.
That's another pun. Homer is in the beads, crafts, belt buckles business. He's got a great online store out of Abilene. It's another hobby type of a business. You know, Homer, you've had the experience that hobbies both are good business areas, but they also can be difficult in a difficult economy. Tell us a little bit, Scott. You said you downsized a little bit. Is that just the result of the economy and that people don't have as much available disposable income?
Not exactly, because and it was one of the best decisions we made, because we had a large store and we were doing a lot of educational programs in the store when the nature centers were not doing programs. And the nature centers started getting demands for programs, and they started expanding their staffs and their volunteers to do the programs in their nature centers. So what we did is we offered them information and products that they could use to educate people where they were. We didn't need that extra space, and when the lease was going up, I figured
Saved a little bit.
it was also harder to shop our store that way. So we redid a lot of displays in the store. We were able to get it to the right size that worked very well for us. We have seen an uptick in activity among hobbyists, so bird feeding activity with the declining economy. We figure it's pretty recession-proof.
That's nice.
We rely more, I guess, victims more of changing weather, of bird populations, things like that, more than the economy. We saw an increase with the declining.
Are you giving speeches at Platte River and some of the other places?
We do talks there occasionally.
We'll talk anywhere someone will listen.
You guys chirp a lot.
Let's go back a little bit. They do BirdTalk Radio. You do it live. We're on tape.
We do,
And I think that takes courage, because in part you have to build enough of a listener base that people are actually calling in and talking to you, and that's terrific. How long have you been doing the radio?
It off and on for about 20 years.
Is that right?
We've been at KNUS almost 2 years.
I know my wife listens and my dad listens, so that's two.
That's
people.
two.
Okay.
And
Right.
They never call.
I listen sometime, and my wife, so that's 2.5 people.
There you go.
Which is
I'm
good.
there too.
I'm more inclined to listen. But have you found, talking from pure, but I assume you have found that the radio is not only does it connect you to a community, just like we do with Business Unconventional, but that it drives traffic to your stores.
It drives it in a different way, because if you do a commercial, you do an ad in a paper, you're saying, here's where we are, this is our location, this is what we specialize in, and here's our special. We can let people know we're the experts, that we have the enthusiasm for the hobby that they have, because we have more time to talk about it.
Homer, what's your thoughts there about in general hobbies and businesses and recession resistance, all those things? What are your thoughts? Sit up.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because we found, and Wall Street Journal just had some great articles on this, that when you're out doing things that are hobby related, whether it's crafts and beads or whether it's outdoors observing wildlife and nature, your brain gets an opportunity to take this massive sigh
Yes,
And-
it does.
and then-
Oh, yeah.
I just read a similar article in Prevention magazine. Guys, we actually are going to have to wrap this up. Now, next Saturday, David, you and I ought to call in on their show.
You think?
Yeah, we ought to be regular callers.
I'm just going to do bird calls.
We take
That's
requests for bird calls.
Do you really?
I already got my
Yes.
cuckoo bird thing
And
going.
Homer,
There are
I'm
coupons.
going to go out and take some pictures at David and Scott's stores, and I'm going to send it, and I'll buy you a bird feeder, and I'll send it down to Abilene. And just like you're in the Abilene Bureau of Business Unconventional, we'll have a Abilene branch of the Colorado Bird Feeders and wild birds unlimited. Gentlemen, pleasure to meet you. Pleasure to have you on our show, and we'll have to have you back.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. We're going to the news.